So who is that person that's going to write you the bigger check? The next thing to think about, and this comes back up, man, it's got to be the heat on that. So if you guys, one of the first KTs that we did was we talked about the life expander, right? You have, what do they call your beam update? And then if you could extend that to whatever you wanted it to be, then it was like, okay, well, what would you do with all that extra time? So it's just really expanding, that. So who's going to write you your check by when? But what would be ideal dream? What would be the ideal dream average? Setting a dream amount expands your perspective of what's possible. Right? Expanding what's possible. And then the minimum is below. So their average was 75, but the minimum that they would take is 50. So now they have a process in place that they're going to say no unless that opportunity can be greater than that, right? So they would not take a customer on that couldn't generate a check of more than 50. So what is your minimum? Right? What's the minimum opportunity for you to say yes to over a 12-month period? Does it have to produce what? Right? So that was like, for us, was like, shit, short sales only going to pay us freaking, $15,000? Like, hell no, this ain't worth the risk, right? So you have to evaluate what is that minimum? And it's just like what it says. It's appropriate to say no to certain clients and opportunities. There's an opportunity cost in not being selective. So what's the minimum amount that you would accept? Right now you're getting a decision filter when an opportunity, so this helps fight off shiny object syndrome. Is now because you can evaluate the opportunity and what is the return on that opportunity, and does that meet my minimum? Because right now I'm operating at 75K, my goal is to get to 150, but here I have a deal to evaluate, and it's only going to be, I have a bare minimum. I have a floor that I would say yes to. Thinking, Stace? What are you thinking?
At what point do you look at it? At what point
I was trying to pull up the math on what our checks would be. You see, you take your 5 pillars of our revenue that comes in, right? So ours would be, in the last 12 months, our biggest ones would equal like $660,000, right?
Okay.
So then you take it divided by 5, which means that our average check would be $132,000.
Okay.
Right? And then the next check we got to get to is $265,000. Like, I was just trying to figure out how to.
So who's going to write that check? So who's going to write that check for 262?
Out of these 5 pillars, no? Or can anybody?
Yeah.
Who's go Cardone? Who's got my money? Who's got my 262?
At what point do you factor in the scalability of that? So you might be able to get one big check, but I don't want just one big check. I want 10x it, baby.
Well, man, so remember, right? Remember, this is an exercise. So what does exercise mean? Exercise means you do it over and over again. So you hit this, you reevaluate, you do it again. You hit it, you do it again. You do it again. So like right now, they've got a new target. And so now what goes into motion, right? They can't unthink this exercise anymore.
Sure.
Right?
I just see it as our affiliate is our least amount of money that comes in, and he wasn't even on our list. So he pays us $30,000 a year for lender business, which he doesn't even fall into our 5.
That doesn't mean you cut that. That just means to show you don't have to focus on it. I mean, you keep pouring into it, it's there. So
you're saying what's that next big thing?
What's the next big opportunity?
What's the next big opportunity you can go after to try to get?
Who's got your money?
Yeah. And then you're going to reevaluate that once you get that.
Yeah.
So McCarthy's, for the examples, to go after bigger fish.
Because she doesn't have to do, she's a workhorse. So if she could do 4 deals instead of doing 12, then that's what she's going to do, right? Because then that gives her more time on the next other bigger check, which is rev share. So that frees her up to be more present to help Steve focus on what the bigger game is, the bigger opportunity.
Is the main goal of this just improving like diversification, would you say?
So the thing is to not keep you complacent.
Or not be distracted. And so like I'll say for me, I don't do flips anymore because for me to do a flip, I lose more money focusing on that flip than I do focusing on my real estate business. Yeah. So I mean, can I do it and make money? Sure, I can all day long. But it takes some, I mean, I'm in control. So I don't do it. I figure I'll lose more money from my real estate business than trying to make money on the flip. Why? Why would I do it?
And two, it could be a who equation. So I'm working with the Perry Group out of Utah, Jack and Michael Perry. They'll do $10 million in revenue this year. Let that sink in for a second.
Is that what, 300 million?
Yeah, pretty close.
GCI, 350.
Over 10 million revenue GCI. So Michael, the son, is so deep with rehabs. He's the one that deals with the contractors. So what we identified is that, man, you got a who problem. You need a who to oversee it, to free them up. So here's the final part of this exercise. So strategizing your next largest check. Examine how you're currently obtaining your revenue streams. What's working that will help you reach out to your next largest clients? What's not? What are the 5 most significant changes you need to make in order to achieve that next check? So how can you most improve your relationships with your current clients, business networks, prospects? So write that down for a minute here. How can you improve your relationships? So we know we're trying to go get that next client, or if we have one that's working, can we make it better, right? So McCarthy's a great example. They know that listings drive a significant amount of their business, but they're upping their clientele to a higher level so that, I mean, even if she does do 5 or 6 deals, she's going to be making double of what she's making with the current clients she's working with. And so how are you on those relationships? How can you most improve the relationships? Next is, how can you improve the support structures? How can you improve your team? How can you improve the systems? And remember where you guys are at on the growth side of things. 1s and 3s. Who get you to 3 might not get you to $1 million. If you get to $1 million, they damn sure ain't gonna get you to $3 million. If that's the goal.
So what did the Perrys do last year?
They'll double. They'll double. They did between 3 and 4, close to $5 million.
So you always say your team that had you at 3, damn sure ain't gonna get you to 10. Did they do a bunch of hiring process?
They are right now. They are right now. Salt Lake City.
Salt Lake.
Yeah.
John, was he the guy that spoke at the Bill conference?
Jack and Michael did not speak at the Bill conference. They did not. They've bought. Now I'll be transparent. They've bought their business. They've bought their business.
You mean they bought a whole brokerage basically?
They spend 150 G's on Zillow a month.
How much?
150
A month?
a month.
Holy shit.
So they're doing rehabs and then residential?
Michael is. Jack's not.
That's still almost 8 times.
But so
It's working.
to your point, with all the knowledge you have in coaching them, isn't that a very scary scenario if they're $1.50 in Zillow, and what if Zillow tomorrow goes, no?
That's why they hired me. That's why they hired me. I was like, holy shit, boys.
That's what just happened, that's really rough time. It just
Yeah.
happened last week,
Yeah,
right?
well, they changed us, and we're flex, you know, you can't pay no matter what, they 35%.
Exactly.
They won't flip them to flex. Why would you? You're getting 150K a month. They're like, so that's what we're working on. We're not to make them dependent upon Zillow. Okay, so how can you improve your support structures, your team members, your systems? Which work habits can you make improvements to? Habits, your behavior, your allocation to time. What time behaviors have to change, knowing the bigger opportunity. Dan and I just had a conversation at lunch with the gentleman, and I was like, he's like, the goal is 300K in rev share. I said, oh, great. Okay, so what do you got to be? What's the number of transactions you want to do? He goes, you know, I do 2 deals a month. You know, I'm cash flow positive. And then during the conversation, he goes, but I really want to be doing 10 to 12 deals a month. And I said, your team? He goes, no, myself. And I was like, what's the goal? So I had to refocus him back on the goal, because I said, if you want to sell 10 to 12 houses a month, do you understand the time allocation to make that possible? But that doesn't align to what you tell me the goal is. Does that make sense? So what habits for you have to change to where the biggest opportunity it's not the biggest, what's the next opportunity that you have to improve, right? That next bigger check. And then the last is, what are the capabilities that you've got to put in place? What are the skills that you know you need to develop? Is there a technology you need to invest in? Are there people you need to align with? Right? So what new capabilities, skills, technology, strategic alliances do you know you need to have? Michael's example, right? Bro, this is a great revenue stream for you, but you can't be allocating your time. You need to make a who to come in and oversee it, right? For us, that who was Rusty on the remodel side of things. We focused running the business. We focused keeping track of the numbers, but he was overseeing the crews to make sure that they're getting done. We would find the opportunities or close out the opportunities, and then you get that who. That's it, man. It's a who game. It's a who game. Was this helpful?
Yeah. It's a little deep for me to absorb in 30 minutes, but.
Yeah, it is. But I'll see if I can get you guys a blank copy of it over. That way you can work from it. It is. It really is. But so it goes to a couple things. Steve, you said it just a second ago. One of the things, but the other is it keeps you out of the comfort trap. Right. If you're not aware of what that next step is, we're not keeping our foot on the gas. Yeah, making 600K, we're good. Right. And if you believe you're either growing or you're dying, what is comfort? You ain't growing. So this allows you to keep moving forward, and that's how we break through. So I just thought it was really a powerful, eye-opening exercise, because honestly, there was something that I was doing that I was like, I got to cut this. But then I started looking at it, and I was like, holy shit, this is like one of the major ones. So how do I, level up something else to where you can move away from the stuff that you're not passionate about? So there's a lot of things when you go through that exercise you can really, really learn.